Hi there, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids and Raising Orchid Kids, where we teach little kids to talk and help parents understand their kids. And we're going to go in a slightly different direction today. I was just telling my guest, we've never had a non-child development professional on the podcast before. So I think this is going to be really fun. I think it's going to be really interesting. And Charisse Sisou, welcome.
Thank you, Gabrielle. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know what?
Like I said, I'm honored to be the first non-speechy, childy. Although I am a mom, so that counts.
Yeah, it always counts, as we're going to discuss, right?
Right.
So I know I just asked you all this thing about like, what do you want me to call you and how do you want me to introduce you? And you know what? I'm going to turn it right back around on you.
Sure.
Tell the good people a little bit about the work that you do and who you are.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I'm an author and a speaker. I'm also CEO and founder of a copy and content agency. And I'm a coach and mentor, right? So I bring an interesting perspective because, so here I am, this like marketing strategist. And so I'm all about, and in fact, I wrote a book called Shameless, Unleash Your Message, Impact, and Power, which is all about shameless visibility, and something that I know that when I started talking about the stuff that we hold in our bodies and how it impacts how we move through the world, right, is the basis of that book and kind of its connection with how we show up, say, you know, being visible and marketing ourselves if we happen to be entrepreneurs or leaders or what have you, or just, you know, sharing our stories on Facebook, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And part of what gives me this kind of unique perspective, well, Gabriella, we were just talking about how we have this shared past of, I was a gender studies major way back when in college.
Mm-hmm.
And
and
then, you know, like, and that sort of, but what that did is it opened my eyes up to kind of paradigms that were in, you know, like I saw the Matrix, you know what I mean? It's like I took that pill. Yeah. And what I realized later was like, not everyone has that experience. And I had it at 18. And so that kind of informed how I was seeing things. And then fast forward, right? I meet my first husband, we have kids together. I'm like further along my life path. And I'd always been a dancer. And I was called to, I'd always wanted to try belly dance. And I'd been too shy to do it. And in fact, I did, like, at age 30 was when I took my first class. I went in, I took the class. I felt like, oh my God, this is what my body's been wanting to do forever. I was like a fish in water, and then like ran away screaming, and like took the next, it was like months before I was like, eek, you know, just like that expression. It's the Marianne Williamson quote, like when we see our power, it's more frightening than like, oh yeah, you know, being small or what have you.
Right.
But yeah, this journey taking me down that, I ended up becoming a professional belly dancer for 10 years. And this is where all this kind of comes together, and why I'm telling the story is I worked with thousands of women across the country. It's kind of a big deal. And I mean, I am a big deal, like right now.
Huge.
But within the belly dance world, it was like I kind of made a name for myself. And one of the things that really emerged from this work was a sense of presence, and distinctly feminine presence, right? And I found myself bumping right up against, here I'd learned all this stuff about patriarchy, sexism, and like how that functions. And then through this dance form, it was like having a great grandmother whisper in your ear, like, this is what your body can do. This is what, you know, I mean, it was like there was stuff beyond learning how to jiggle your hips. Do you know what I mean? It was a sense of, I felt so in my body and empowered in a way that I'd never felt before. And a way of being sensual and playful that was like unencumbered by judgment or shame or, now granted, of course, that was a process. It was absolutely a process. But it informs my work to this day, because I started to see the stories that we carry in our bodies and what happens when we start to release those stories, reintegrate that energy, and reclaim parts of ourselves that we may have shelved, or whether consciously or unconsciously, and very often unconsciously.
I was about to say, yes, we do a lot of that. And women, I think all humans do it. Women do it instinctually and a lot.
Yeah.
Particularly
we're encouraged to do it. Yeah. Mold yourself to make yourself more likable. Just do it. And we go like, okay.
Right. Okay. And then
because we're 10 or something. You know what I mean? Like, let's
or
just
two.
Yes.
Or two.
Exactly. We're children.
So we have this period of socialization. And what's interesting to me about that is both on the adult side of that equation, so women who are now mothers, for example, but also for women who are raising girls.
Yeah.
This becomes a very, as you were talking, I was like, whoa, this is like really deep, really broad, really woo, really into like all the things, right? Like this is very not practical reality kinds of things that you're talking about. And except
100% totally. I may be woo, but I am pragmatic woo, because it's all 100% impacts everything.
That's right. How you show up here on this planet, right? And how we model and how we show our children, girl children in particular, but all children. Okay. So we can talk about that too.
And really gender is irrelevant, right? So it's like, our children look to us, right, as models, as leaders. And so they, and whatever we are unconsciously passing on, they're witnessing, they're picking it up, and they're, you know what I mean? So this is part of the challenge and the exciting part of being a parent. I mean, because as we know, like they will mirror back absolutely everything without fail.
So what's interesting to me about that, okay, back to the sort of belly dancing, self-expression through the body.
Yeah.
Shameless.
Yeah.
This idea of being shameless is kind of, it's kind of bold. I got to tell you, right? Like, isn't shame just built into being a human?
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, it's really interesting because, right now, I'm not talking about, oh gosh, I did something to hurt someone, and now I feel remorse about that. And some might even use that word shame, like, oh, I feel shame about that. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, it's very much builds on the work of Brené Brown, right? Where she talks about, here's the difference, right? The difference between guilt and shame, right? Where guilt is like, ooh, I've done something wrong. I better not do that again, or this is the consequence of that, right? And next time I can choose to do differently. I can apologize, blah, blah, blah. Shame is like, I am wrong. It becomes like part of your identity. Now, here's the thing is that, again, like, what are we talking about? We're talking about stuff that we were hearing when we were 2, 3, 5, right? I tell this story in my book about, and we all have moments like this. The moment where it was like, oh, I'm in a girl body and there is something not okay about that. And I don't understand why, but WTH, right? So the story that I tell is like what had been relayed to me, or I read it in, I can't remember now if it was like a client or so. I had read it in a book about a young girl who's like playing with her cousins, and they're out in the sun and it's hot, and they've been doing like every summer the family gathers. And so she does what she's always done, which is like they're down to their shorts and they're just kind of panting in the sun. And then all of a sudden, the back window flies open. You can hear the sash like hitting. And her grandmother leans out and she's like, Jessica May, I'm making up this name. You put on your shirt right now, right? And she goes, this is so weird because last year it was okay, and the year before that it was okay, but suddenly it's not okay. And her boy cousins are looking at her like, and then she's putting on her shirt. They don't have to put on a shirt. And it makes no sense at all because she looks identical. Obviously, she's not sexually mature, and so she's just as flat as her boy cousins are. And yet there's something different about her and her body.
And different and
like put that away.
Put that away. It's bad. It's unseemly.
It's shameful, right? Yeah. So this is the piece. And then they get stored away somewhere. Oh my God, I could tell you. And the thing is, we all have stories like that. Mm-hmm. We all have moments like that where maybe we were like flirty or, even in my, when I was, this is going back, but like in grade school, we had, I shared this story too, like one of my classmates had the nickname Switch. This is more common in the South, but I grew up in Chicago, right? But like this phrase or this nickname, and it just meant because she had a nice little switch when she walked. Her hips would do this. Uh-huh. Here's the thing: it was not meant to be a flattering nickname. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And nobody wanted that name. So this, I see, if there's like one change that I could make on the planet, it would be this. For women to release their hips from this, like, because we all got that message at some point. Oh, don't move your hips like that. Only fast girls do that. Only bad girls do that.
Because men can't control themselves.
Oh, that's what we're told.
Right.
There's so many stories.
There's so many stories.
Yeah. So it's like you'll get the wrong, but yeah, we're taught that, oh gosh, you'll get the wrong kind of attention. Mm-hmm. Only fast girls do stuff like that. Like, what will people think of you? Mm-hmm. Fast forward, I've had conversations with women where they're like, but if I start to move my hips, like, will people even take me seriously?
Right.
And so it's really deeply embedded. Right?
This is so interesting. I want to pause here for a second because for anybody who, number one, we've all women have internalized, all Western women anyway, have internalized this message. Okay. So by definition, and for some people watching, this is the first time they're hearing this and they're going, huh? Like, what the hell are you people talking about? Number one. Number two, or I never thought about that way. Okay. Yeah. So if you're in either one of those camps and you have a daughter, chances are she has already started picking up these messages. Right.
Yeah. Well, and then I just want to say this too, because my gosh, there's so much pressure on us as parents to like somehow know all this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Do it 1,000 times better than our own parents did for us. And then, and just magically know. So it just, for anyone who's listening, who is a parent, I just want you to know, you haven't messed up.
That's right.
Everything is, we're so resilient. We are so flexible. We are so amazing. Like we can have transformation, instantaneous transformation at any moment. Yeah. So,
okay, wait, sorry. I want to interrupt you again though, because when we're talking, because most of the people watching this are going to have what we call orchid kids, right? Yeah. Kids who have, either they have a diagnosis or they don't, but they're different, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who can't help it or who don't know how to change it when they have a switch in their walk or when they run down the sidewalk in exuberance. And these are kids, actually, as you were talking, I was like, these are kids who are either super in their bodies or
which freaks us out because we've been taught
freaks us out and triggers us. Okay. So that's one thing, but we also have orchids who have a really hard time being in their bodies because things are just not calibrated. And in fact, they would benefit, we try to be all cerebral with those guys, like explaining things and all that. But really what those kiddos would benefit from those orchids when they're having trouble being present in their own bodies is help being present in their own bodies.
Yeah.
Because, actually the thing I think about oftentimes when we have, and some of those kids have sensory processing disorders, some have autism, right? Like, so
it's going to be different.
Good.
It's going to be different for different kids. Like what will feel comforting or what will help them ground. Yeah.
Exactly. And so sometimes they look like, there's butterflies inside them and they're just like trying to right.
Yeah.
And yeah, they need help grounding. They need a connection to their bodies. They need an understanding. They need a hook to get them seated into their bodies. And that can throw us for a loop as parents, because really all we want is for our kids to behave well and to learn to speak and be happy and go to school and have fun.
Right. Into productive adults, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's all. No big.
So all this to say, it can be really triggering when we've got somebody who is either having trouble being in their body, or who is so much in their body that they're not paying attention to those other things that are also important, or
right,
think are important.
I love the points that you're raising. And what is dropping in for me is really, and just to kind of bring it full circle, is that it really does start with us, right? And so, do we know how to ground? Do I know how to be in my body? Do I know how to let my hips switch just a teensy weensy time? This is the reason why I talk about that, because it's not about, because we've been taught, oh, this is it's like a seduction thing. Even with belly dance, it's like, oh, it's the dance of seduction. I'm like, no, it's not actually. This is just how women in multiple cultures have just gotten down, and primarily in women-only spaces as well, for millennia. And it was just, it would be taken out of context and used to entertain people. And that's where it started to take on a different meaning. And but 99.9999% of this dance was literally like passed from mother to daughter, aunt to niece, and you're just like enjoying the music, and even like flirting with your aunt, and she's like shimmying back at you, and it's the sweetest, most wonderful thing in the world. It's like wonderful, because you learn how amazing your body is and how powerful you are, and all that yummy stuff. But that's nice. What does that have to do with this and being present in the body? Well, it takes a lot of energy to hold the body back from what it wants to do naturally, right? Huge amount of energy. So I, and you'll have heard this analogy before, because our business coach uses the same one of like the holding the beach ball under the water, right? Or maybe you've heard her use this, maybe not, but it's the same thing. So like, here we are doing all the things that we magically do as women anyway, parenting and partnering and sistering and mothering and like all of the things, friending, working, leading, all while holding this huge beach ball underneath the water, because we can't move our hips. Do you know what I mean? Don't do it. I know you're walking down but don't do it.
Yeah. And for me, it's right here. It's like tightness right here. I hold it here. Some people hold it in their necks
or in their shoulders. Yeah. In fact, I teach like a little body check, right? That I take people through, that's like here, checking in here, the jaw, the mouth, because some of them hold it right here, right? Some of us hold it. Yeah. Right. I mean, we're all different. So all of that, it's like that, that holding that beach ball under the water while we're going around doing everything else, that sucks up so much energy. What if you were to let it go and reintegrate that energy? Like, what could you do with all that extra time? And like, do you know
that extra bandwidth?
All that extra bandwidth, right? Because like we know this, like we, as women, very often we're doing a lot of the emotional work in our world, right? We're holding the children's schedules and what they're studying in school right now. And oh my God, that laundry is still sitting on the floor in the laundry room, and everyone just steps right over it like it's not there. But I notice it and it's there. And like all of that stuff takes up space, takes up bandwidth. along with stuff like this that maybe we learned when we were 2, maybe we learned, long time ago, of like, I've got to hold myself a certain way. I can like only smile so big. I can only laugh so loud, and all of the other ways that we've been kind of, conform.
Mm-hmm.
And our orchid. What is so freaking amazing about them is that they, part of why they're here is like to challenge all of that. All of it.
All of it. Because they don't conform. They refuse to conform.
Yeah.
And depending on how woo you want to get, they chose to arrive in a brain and a body that was not going to allow them to conform. Now, I don't know if I believe that or not. I have heard it said. But it is really interesting when we have these kids who challenge us so very much.
Yeah. I mean, I think I know, well, like whatever you believe, right? This is undeniable. And for me, it reminds me of this whole thing of, when we talk about paradigms or like kind of ruling, this is the structure that we're in, right? How does the paradigm get switched? How did we go from, the sun is revolving around the earth to the earth is revolving around the sun? At first, everyone who said the earth was revolving around the sun was like, crazy pants. It was like they were heretics.
Kill all those people.
Yeah, right. They were put to death. They were like, then in hindsight, it's like, oops, sorry. But like but this is the thing, like you have your first, kind of like your outliers, your first people who are like, wait, I'm thinking that this paradigm may not work for us anymore. Questioning this paradigm. And then when enough people challenge the paradigm, it shifts. And then suddenly everyone's like, oh yeah, of course. Duh.
Of course the earth is round. Although. Right.
So I know, let's not go there. So like, I know, I was like, we're not taking it in that direction. But like,
I love your conversation. As you were talking about the sun, I was like, oh, good one, Charisse.
Right.
Good, solid, old example.
Yeah, I know, ancient. Had to go real far back.
Good job. Good job.
So anyway, but this is the thing, and this is how I see orchid kids. This is how I see, so many of our young people are totally challenging all kinds of paradigms around how we should behave, what a free human looks like. Do you know what I mean? It's really, you can go as deep and spiritual as you want, or keep it right here of just like frame of reference, because after a certain point, if, let's say, for example, if everyone in your school has to get an IEP, maybe there's something wrong with the system, not the kids. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Exactly. Just saying, right? Because it's like, at what point do you say, oh no, they're not conforming, they're not conforming, they're not conforming, they're not conforming. And at one point do you go like, well, if nobody is, or very few, or it's like that number is, Yeah. So it seems to me like that. It feels like we are kind of moving towards some kind of shift around. And I feel like these kids are always our teachers, always.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're going to have to leave it there.
Okay. I know.
Even though we could talk about this all day long.
Totally.
I don't know if it's relevant, but if people want to work with you,
sure.
Where do they find you? And what can you do for them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd be happy to. They can learn more about me at shamelessmovement.com. And if my book sounded interesting to you at all, that's where you can learn about it. It's also on Amazon. And
what's the book title again?
Shameless: Unleash Your Message, Impact, and Power.
Yeah.
And so you have to get past all these shameless TV show references. Like if you look it up in Amazon, it's not the TV show, it's the book. And and other than that, like the copy agency is at claimyourmessage.com.
Okay.
But if this has sparked anything in you, and even if you just have questions, book a call, let's chat. I'd be delighted. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. This was really fun.
Pleasure. Oh, it was so fun for me too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.